So this is the comparison of color science between Canon and Sony, and there is definitely a difference. Despite all of the rumors and opinions on, it's all myth, all that jazz. Totally see where that's coming from. A lot of that is true, but at the end of the day, there is a difference. So I'm going to show you these two photos first, just kind of as an introduction. So I have the Canon's actually on the left. These are both shot at the same ISO, focal length, f-stop, all that jazz. So for whatever reason, the Canon came out a lot sharper. I don't find that that's always the case, but in this particular photograph, definitely see that for some reason. Anyways, so we got Canon on the left here. So you're going to start to see a little bit of the difference coming out right away. So first off, this color here is definitely richer. It's definitely deeper. Even the concrete here, you can see a difference, and this just looks way better right off the bat. Both of these photos have not been edited. Then I'm going to go up. Again, it's pretty similar throughout the image, but we're going to start to see some differences in more of the extremes. Again, on the Canon, we got deeper blues, not that big of a difference. So in a lot of your photographs, it's not going to be that big of a difference. So for example, in Tony and Chelsea Northrup's YouTube video about the color science between Canon and Sony, their main photo that they did their poll on, where they tested people's ability to tell the difference between the two color sciences, was on a photo shot indoors, which really is like driving a Lamborghini and driving a Prius in a parking lot, and saying that they go about the same speed, because they do go about the same speed in the parking lot. But that's not what we're testing. The photographers who are trying to tell the difference between Canon and Sony and color sciences are not driving cars in parking lots. They're professionals in the real world, and that's what it comes down to. So maybe if you're doing indoor photography or that kind of thing, go ahead, no big deal. But for me, I'm a landscape photographer, and really, this is really where I started to notice a difference, and why I think a lot of people haven't quite put their finger on this yet is because a lot of people don't shoot straight sunsets, and that's kind of where I found the real fingerprint of the difference between the two. So here it is. So this is shot on a Canon camera, the 5D. So I'm going to zoom in here once it loads, and I'm going to develop it. And first off, I'm going to bring down the highlights a lot just so we can kind of get that more accurate color. So right off the bat, you see we got, this sunset, first of all, is not the 10 out of 10 sunset. This is a very middle of the road kind of average sunset and compare, on the scale. Still very beautiful. So I'm going to start to bring up the saturation, and about here it starts to get kind of ugly. But that's the reason I'm doing this, is to show you the extremes between the two colors. So I'm going to put it at 27. Okay, bring down the highlights. Let's just say to 100. I'm going to go over here to this photo. Same settings, all that. I'm going to bring down the highlights to 0. Okay, and I'm going to bring up the saturation to, for the sake of this photo, I'm just going to bring up the highlights more, just so we can. I have one tripod. I switched the cameras between the two tripods, so this one was taken a few, maybe 30 seconds later, so it's a little darker. It was a quick sunset, but anyways, I'm going to bring up the saturation to here. Okay, when I start to really bring it up, we start to get this really rich kind of yellow going throughout the photo, and then I'm going to go over here and see how these two photos, how when I've brought up the saturation, we got oranges, we got reds, we got all these variety of colors. Here, when I bring it up, it's just so yellow. There's so much yellow going on here. There's a little bit of orange, That's great. But when you're doing your post-production for your photographs, and you're gonna, you're gonna have your filters, you're gonna try to get all the colors right. You're gonna notice that when you start going through the line of all your colors here, which I'm not gonna, spend the time doing, because I can say the point just through this alone. You're gonna start to get really not attractive colors in your sunsets. The first day I bought my Sony A7R, I took it out and did a time lapse on a sunset that was just 10 out of 10 sunset. And when I went in and I processed it, it was just this color here, this yellowy kind of not accurate portrayal of the colors of the sunset. And that's really seen here. Again, this is not that great of a sunset. I only had my Sony and my Canon for the same day for 24 hours, so I only had one sunset to shoot, and this is the one I got. But it shows. I mean, it's clear that the color at golden hour, if you're a portrait photographer, or at sunset when you're doing landscape, you're gonna get really attractive oranges and reds and yellows at that time of day on your Canon that you just cannot pick up, as you can see here on your Sony. There is a clear difference. So that's a big deal if you're a golden hour portrait photographer. You shoot weddings at sunsets, that kind of thing. There is a definite difference. You'll see it in the skin tones when you have two photos side by side, Sony and Canon. You'll see it in the colors, the whole array of how the sunset, the golden hour, the sunrise all change the color in your image. You're going to see much richer, much more attractive colors on your sunset, sunrise, golden hour times than you're going to see on your Sony. That being said, a lot of the other, shots are going to look very similar during the day when, the color is washed out and all that. So there you go. There is a difference. It is real. If like I said, if you are one of those photographers who's, professional photo shoot photographer for portraits, and you're doing a lot of golden hour sunset shoots for all kinds of stuff, you're going to want a Canon. The Sony is not going to give you the same color. And that's it. Again, this is a very basic test. I put, as you can see, very little effort into this test. I didn't have the greatest two comparisons. I didn't do very much. I should have quick, went out one time, took a few photos, and there you go. It's pretty easy to see if you know what you're looking for. Again, that hasn't been shown on most of the mainstream YouTube videos, and it's shown here. So anyways, there you go. Thank you.